Hey everybody, Jay Schlansky here from the Fifth Trooper Network. I just want to take a moment to thank you for checking out this show. Did you know that over at thefifthtrooper.com we have tons of other content, including blogs, other podcasts, all kinds of stuff. In addition, if you want access to exclusive content, you can join us on patreon.com/thefifthtrooper and join at any level and you'll get access to exclusive blog articles, access to our private Discord, and much more. So please check us out, and thank you so much for all your support.
Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Legion 99 podcast, your source for the latest tactics, news, battle reports, hobby talk, and general Legion chatter. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of the Legion 99 podcast. I am Nick, and I'm here this week with Rich O'Brien, Codec, if you know him on the Discord, and Keegan's not here. But we did rope Mike in last minute. You can't see him because his webcam broke like literally 10 minutes ago. But he's here. You can hear him. His beautiful voice. We got him back.
People would rather listen to me than see me anyway, so it's a good 2-for-1.
Oh, no.
Mr. Right. Over here.
We were all at Nova Open last week, and we're going to talk about it. Keegan couldn't make it this week. Hopefully I don't break everything. I'm not usually left in charge.
Luckily I used to do all of the editing and recording beforehand, so we do have a capable pair of hands here.
That's definitely not why you're here. What? Crazy. Well, before we get into that, we are part of the Fifth Trooper Network. So, check us out on Patreon. Help us out. A lot of good content, even more content if you join the Patreon. We got a cool Discord, cool discounts for Patreon members, for 6-up supply, and all that great stuff. But, we're here. We're mostly going to talk about Nova. There are a couple other little things we'll get to before that. And then
small things.
Small things. But I guess like the first thing we should not mention, the website's here. The prince that was promised has finally arrived. And it's actually pretty nice. I'm happy that it's here and it's a lot easier to navigate. You guys, what do you think?
Fingers crossed, first order.
I'm a fan. It's great. It actually looks like if you would go to a GW page and you open their website and you can browse their products and see pictures of it and see the cards. So, it makes AMG look a lot more professional, and I'm here for that.
I definitely like having a spot where we know communications are going to be and product can be viewed.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
I always had a lot of trouble finding like the previous transmissions when I wanted to like click on them like while we're recording so I can go back and make sure I'm not like remembering things incorrectly. So that's great. Also, like the product page, when it first launched, there's like a tab with like factions, and there was like, I think there was a first order faction listed and also a scum and villainy faction, but we're all pretty sure that those were just copy paste errors. Yeah, you're crossing your fingers there, but like, I mean, I'm pretty sure those were copy paste errors. Like,
probably
so random, but yeah.
I remember we used to get stuff from FFG, He Who Shall Not Be Named, and those were how we got previews from drops from Asmodee and everywhere else. So it kind of felt a little bit old school. I liked it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be okay. It'd be cool to see like a first order faction, I guess. But
this game needs more red saves. I'm here for it.
Oh God, get out of here. I do like that, like when you click on products, it actually shows you like the cards that are in the pack. Like it shows images of like the unique cards and stuff. That's really cool. That's like a nice touch.
Especially now
especially
now that the cards don't come with every single unit. If you do need to be a little bit more selective with your purchasing to find the upgrade cards, it's nice that you know exactly what's coming with the package.
For sure.
I also like that they put the instructions on how to assemble them in the links for the articles as well. That was a real nice touch.
Yep. I'm sure it helps my builder.
But great. It's a great start. I'm very excited as they keep adding stuff. Hopefully, in the next coming weeks, we get some they add some Genosians on there and some Inquisitors and some Bad Batch. I'm all about that. Because, Ministravaganza is next weekend. But
that kind of sounds like a leading comment.
Yeah. So, I mean, I think we mentioned it 2 weeks ago, but we actually got the full schedule for Ministravaganza. Let me see if I can very easily find the Ministravaganza program schedule transmission. There it is. It's right there. I found it so easily. So we didn't have this schedule when we recorded 2 weeks ago. I'm sure everybody knows the whole schedule, but there are quite a few Legion topics each day, which is excellent. There's, a lot of Shatterpoint, a lot of MCP, but there's also a lot of Legion. It actually is almost pretty even. As far as each day, there's
paying attention to
if you're X-Wing.
Feels bad if you're X-Wing.
Well, I mean, it feels bad that you're playing X-Wing, so
fired. But yeah, there's also the very last, one of the very last things. Each one of these each day, because it's Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They have a roadmap for MCP on Thursday. They have a roadmap for Shatterpoint on Friday, and then on Thursday at 9 a.m. and this would be Pacific. So these are all Pacific times. It has the Legion roadmap. So that is the one that I'm definitely going to be probably glued to. Maybe, who knows? I don't know, I'll probably forget, and then I'll just go back and watch it later. But it definitely seems that there's painting, or it's called battle color. So I assume it's a paint stream each day. And it says Republic's Finest. And then there's Empire's Elite. Gotta imagine that's the Inquisitors. And then the Hives of Geonosis. So, a whole lot. There's also War Table Spec Ops. So maybe they'll release the full rules. Only 2 weeks past Nova Open. Oh, shout out to Evan Bulris, the Nova Open Spec Ops champ.
Best there ever was at Spec Ops.
Best Spec Ops player in the country right now, baby.
If I remember correctly, he was the only one that showed up, right?
Yes.
Yes, that is. He doesn't. That's how you win, though. He just scared everybody away. They were just afraid of him.
We were all frightened of his power.
Yeah, but but that's exciting. There's a lot of stuff here. I'm real excited. It feels bad if you're an X-Wing player because there's nothing there. But what are you gonna do?
Since we're here, do we want to just hit that brief segment instead of coming back to it after Nova?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I think if I remember correctly, you and Keegan had talked already a couple weeks ago about what you were expecting for it. But Rich and I were not there for that. So if we wanted to briefly hit, I'm pretty interested to see how the roadmap turns out.
Yes.
I'm kind of hoping that it's the usual convention dump of hey, here's the next 6 to 7 expansions. I might be unpopular. I like the fact that we get these large dumps and then they kind of space out the info, because it gives us an idea of potential combos down the line without spoiling it too early. Part of the roadmap, I think they said that there's an interview with the devs about battle forces and such. I'm curious to see what they say, because that's the same topic that we had in our interview over a year ago. Mm-hmm. So I'm hoping that we get some new information about their goals and directions for the battle forces. And that it's not the same thing that they talked about here in On Blasters.
Yeah.
But we've been kind of content starved for a while in terms of spoilers, and I really hope that we just get overly dumped here going into the Christmas season.
Yeah, I'd love for them to hey, this is what you're going to see the rest of the year, cuz we are now, there's only 4 months left of the year, as wild as that sounds. But yeah, it'd really be great to know what else is coming this year. It would be a real bummer if Ewoks are the last thing, cuz basically we usually, the pre-orders go up on Asmodee before, and that's when we find out release dates. That's been the trend the last 6 months or so. Asajj was leaked because of a pre-order. We didn't actually have any details on her until the pre-order leaked. And then the Ewoks, we didn't know when Ewoks were coming until they popped up on the Asmodee site for pre-order. And then we knew. So it's like I've kind of been like hoping and waiting that like something would just drop on the website so that like we would at least know, like, because it's usually about 2 months before. So like right now, what was that?
It'd be a real bummer if the last thing we got was Ewoks and then nothing until next year.
Yeah.
I'm really hoping that we get back to some of that more consistent releases.
One a month.
Yeah. One a month was great. Maybe one every 2 months is more reasonable.
I feel like that's probably super reasonable. And that's better than like that plus the print and play Battle Force stuff, like mixing that in is like, that's enough content to keep us like busy for a while, at least. It's hard to like, it's really tough right now to like is like somebody like I'm trying to grow my local community. It's really tough because like there just like hasn't been any releases. So like people are, and like Shatterpoint gets like a couple things every month, which is like, that was the MCP roadmap too. So like we know eventually that will slow down probably in about a year. Like it will probably slow down, and then we'll probably start seeing a balance of like Legion Shatterpoint MCP stuff. Hopefully.
It just feels bad if you're not an Empire player right now, because for the most part, they're the only ones that got useful units in the form of the Dark Troopers, Tempest being reborn into being able to play some ATSTs.
5-time scouts.
With bikes.
Right. It's like I feel most bad, honestly. I think like Separatists have gotten like the shortest end of the stick here.
I was just about to say that
because like
I'm a droid player, and the only thing we've gotten in the last 12 months is Asajj.
Yeah,
and she doesn't do anything new for the faction that we didn't already have in Maul. So I'd very much just like to, and I'm sure we're going to get something with Geonosians. I'll be shocked if they don't have some sort of play. But I would like to get, I would love to get some confirmation for that because I'm tired of playing with the same core. And the same
I feel like we've got to get some information on some of these units that were previewed or announced at Adepticon. Like we got to get some at the very least. Like even if that's the only thing we see, but like I can't imagine like they leaked that Rebel Ahsoka model like at a Ministravaganza like a full year before she came out. It was more than a year before she came out. So like I imagine like they're gonna tease like stuff into the far into the future, and that's great. But like I think more importantly, the next 6 months or so is super important. I think right now because like the points update did a lot for Republic. It also did a lot to like tone down Empire, but then Empire got Tempest, and like we'll talk about it. I'll talk about it quite a bit during my Nova reports, but Blizzard Force is still really good.
Extremely good.
It's still really, really good.
The lack of additional core options outside of Ewoks and the additional special forces outside of, I guess, Dark Troopers I'd call classified more special troopers than I would vehicles.
Yeah.
It just feels like we've gotten a lot of named characters, which are great, but none of the things that make Legion different than Shatterpoint, different than other miniature games where you have core troopers.
And it's also like, as I've been painting, I don't have a lot of Legion to paint right now. So I've been catching up on like, I bought Shatterpoint stuff. I've been painting Shatterpoint. I've got like 4 squads painted, and like, it's just like awesome. These models are awesome to paint. I love it. But I really want to paint some Legion again, like some new Legion. I'm real like, like if I can run like a whole army of Geonosian warriors, guess what? I'm going to buy them because like I think it's cool. And like, also like, I need some more Legion stuff to paint. Like I'm talking to my buddy and he's over here at the store painting boats for some like ship combat game, like pirate ships, and it looked really cool. And it's like he mentioned before, like when he was painting something, he's like, well, I would paint Legion stuff, but they won't make anything. He's like, I don't have anything to paint. Like, fair point. We need stuff. Like, I hope we get some information on some stuff coming out soon. I'd love to see a couple new units before PAX. Like, I'd love to.
Do you guys think that 2.0 is on the Legion roadmap or potential on the roadmap?
I think potentially, yeah.
I think that they would. I would be surprised if it comes out of nowhere here, but I fully expect it to be hinted at because we're 5, almost 6 years into a game. It's just standard practice to get a refresh after that time period.
I think X-Wing was like 5 or 6 years old when 2.0 came out. I don't actually remember exactly how long. It might have been a little older, but it was overdue. You talk to some people, and some people like who I have a lot of respect for too. Like when I talk to these people, like some people think it needs it, some people don't. I'm in the camp that like if AMG wants to put their like they want their footprint on this game essentially. Like they want this needs to be their game eventually, and it still doesn't feel like it. It feels like it's something in between. Like they've moved away from a lot of like the things FFG did that we liked and some of the things we didn't like, and they've implemented their changes. Then some of them are things we like and some of them are things we don't like. I think we can all agree there. And I think there's definitely a difference between some people really like a lot of the AMG changes, and some people I don't want to say a lot. Some people don't like a lot of the AMG changes, but like I think it would be good for them to get their version of the game out. Yeah, whatever their vision for this game, I want to see it sooner rather than later. So if that means that we're getting a second edition sometime next year, which I think if they were going to talk about it at this Ministravaganza, it would probably be sometime next year.
Yeah, probably just after Adepticon. I would imagine that they would do a 2.0 post Worlds.
Yeah, absolutely.
I would think that you would probably announce that, hey, this is something that's coming months down the line, and then you drop it off
We're
Worlds.
all fighting for invites for a game that doesn't exist yet.
But my final point that I mentioned earlier with the Battle Forces, with their comments with the devs, I think you could make a legitimate argument that 2.0 has kind of already come with the dawn of so many competitive Battle Forces when they weren't supposed to be that way. And if that's the nature of how Legion is going to trend towards, having a roadmap of this is what we're going to be doing with said Battle Forces for coming factions would be necessary.
Yeah.
So that players can decide how much they want to commit to it.
Yeah. I think I said it at Nova. We'll get another Empire Battle Force first, and it'll be like Vader's fist, Vader 501st. It'll be like Operative Vader as a commander, leading clone troopers.
Based on some of the names of the panels, it's possible.
Yeah. But like you won't have to be within range too for the 2-pip. It'll be at range. No, I kid. I'm excited for it. I can't wait. Very excited for Ministravaganza. Any Legion is great. I'm excited for the whole thing. Like, cause I like giving AMG my money, even though I don't always get what I want, but I give AMG, like, you look behind here, there's like, it's like, it's fine. Tell me, I'm excited for them to tell me how I'm going to spend my money for the next 6-8 months. Like that's great.
That's all I want.
Yeah, but
Gungan Forces,
Gungan Battle Force. Yes, do it. There's like 8 people I know from like X-Wing who are like, "Oh, I'll play Legion when they make Gungans," and I can't wait to be like, "Well, guess what? Now you're a Legion player because we have Gungans."
Come paint these frog people. Have fun.
I'll paint the heck out of them. But yeah, all right, Ministravaganza. We're all very excited. If there's one thing that you hope that they reveal at Ministravaganza, what is it? Mike, go.
A third droid core.
Okay. Rich, go.
Can I say a third clone core?
Yeah, sure. That's fine.
I'll play some clone cores.
Yeah. Rich is a clone player. He's a Yoda main. So, yeah, adds up.
It's my guy.
Yeah. All right. Well,
And I'm just a flirt currently in love with the droids again.
yeah, I know. I'm excited for when you change your mind and buy into a different faction again, and I get to paint more stuff for you.
It's all right. I have them all. It's
I know. But all right, well, Ministravaganza website, all great. Well, I guess we could plug upcoming events right now because that's normally about where we do it. We don't really have a lot of other news. So coming up next is Crucible. Me and Mike will be there. That's in like 3 weeks.
It is. I looked at the calendar yesterday
Yeah.
and got terrified that I need to purchase my plane ticket.
Yes. So I got another invite at Nova. Spoiler alert. But you probably already know. So I decided I'm playing Ewoks at Crucible and I'm going for best painted. That's the goal. I got third best painted at Nova, which I was shocked.
Yeah, they didn't look at your FD.
They didn't look at the FD that close. But anyway, we'll move on from that. I'm painting. So I went to the LGS on Thursday, and like I said, they won't make new Legion stuff for me to paint. So I'll just buy old Legion stuff and paint it again. So I picked up I asked Jordan about the rules for the painting contest, and he basically said that like the models have to be official models essentially. Like they can be modified, but they still have to like at least partially be. So I picked up a new Han, and I picked up a new Leia, and I picked up some new commandos because my commandos, like, they're all old and they don't look great. So
they've got 4 years of wear and tear.
Right. Yeah. Like every list of strike teams. So it's like they get picked up a lot. But so I picked up some of those models, and I'm going to like work on them over the next couple of weeks. I don't know what list I'm bringing yet, but I'm probably not going to bring the ATSD because it just makes me sad when it dies.
Yeah, you tilt too easily with that.
Yeah, I get so sad because it's like oh, it shoots one time and it dies. Everything's got impact and critical and pierce, and I just die. Like, leave him alone. But yeah, I'm just gonna bring like some kind of like 11 or 12 act list with like also like everybody, including these two fine gentlemen, gave me all of their Ewok skirmisher cards from Nova. So I have like 6 of these now, and I intend to run at least 4 or 5 of these. But
excellent.
Yeah. And I didn't get the Wicked card though. I'm so sad.
Gotta throw the razzle dazzle.
And this is the best. This is the painting card. The 3PO.
That is good. That is good.
It's good. But yeah, so I'm running Ewoks Crucible. I'm excited.
It's a good thing you got that invite from Nova though, right?
Right. Yeah. We'll get there. I forgot about that, but we'll get there.
Yeah, we won't get too salty too early.
No. After that, Mike, you've got an event you're going to in November. That
I do. It has a name. It's very long. I don't know what it is, but it's a store championship somewhere in San Jose.
QE. That's the acronym they're using. I hate it, but I'll say it for Keegan.
This is the first time that I've heard it. So,
okay. Yeah.
Yeah. But I will be out there. I've never been to California, so I'm excited to go see how San Jose is. That'll be fun.
This is the Guild House. Everybody's welcome qualifier where they have 2 invites. It's 5 rounds of Swiss, 32 players. I think they've sold like well over half the tickets at this point. So
I'm also excited because the place that they play in is like an esports and card bar as well. So
it's so gorgeous.
If and when my first day doesn't go so well, you can find me over on the PC because I'm sure CS2 will be out by then. So I've got my backup plan all in place.
There you go. And then further out, near and dear to my heart, is PAX Unplugged. The player packet's out. It's official. We were approved. It's it was happening anyway. But Game Uplink is at like 37, 38 players already. So I highly recommend you sign up sooner rather than later if you plan to come. So there's about 20 or so spots left, maybe less after this recording. But
what are you capped at?
64, hard cap 64. It's really tough to not make it a 3-day event if we go over 64. Like it's
That's
basically
fair.
Impossible.
And the PAX hall hours aren't the best.
I don't want to do, and I didn't want to do that for like, so for a lot of reasons, because like if you're going to come in for the whole weekend for like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, like you should be able to I want you to spend some time at the convention doing other things other than Legion, because there's a lot there to offer.
And you're right next to like historic Philadelphia with the Liberty Bell and everything too.
Yeah,
so there's a lot to do right outside the convention hall.
Right. Yeah. And it's like PAX is great. It's like mini Gen Con. Or so I've been told. I don't know. I'm very excited. I have like the last 2 tables are essentially printed. They just need to get painted before then. So it's really exciting for me not to have to like try and finish 8 tables in 3 months. Like every other event leading up to it before me, every other big event, I'm like, all right, it's like 6 weeks from now and I've got like 3 more tables to paint. This is great. No, we're probably fine. This is great. And actually, one of the tables is already partially painted because one of the community members donated a sick piece of terrain for me that's already painted. So that's great.
Shout out!
I love your tables, Nick.
Thank you. Yeah, I know. I brought a whole bunch from the Nova, and then I had to pay almost $300 to park the truck for the weekend.
That's insane.
Yeah. Yeah.
Out my way, out in the New England area, there's Everwinter coming up in December as well. Just wanted to give that a shout out. It's in Wakefield. I think they're currently at 20 people. I do know that there is a Worlds invite for that one. So if you're interested, come on out.
Is that the second weekend in December? I know it was last year.
I think it is.
Yeah, I couldn't. I wanted to go. I couldn't make it work because of PAX. It's tough. But yeah, will you be there?
I will indeed be there.
Awesome. That's the same people who ran Ironweld, right? Basically.
Mm-hmm.
I know that's where you got your invite. So that's great.
That's where I got my dubs.
Nice. All right. Those are events. I have a little Top Deck event coming up. This November 11th. But we don't have a sign up for that yet.
Of course, you scheduled it while I'm gone.
I know. Well, I'm like, my brain is all over the place lately. I apologize. All right. Well, that's events. And we kind of alluded to, before we jump into Nova, one more thing. About a week and a half ago, AMG released like an official communication. There was a lot of talk about invites if your store championship was under 16. Should you hand out the invites? People were told by certain people in the community that they should give out invites, even if you were under 16. And basically, some other people in the community were talking about, they're not supposed to be giving out invites because it says it in the kit, not to give them out if it's not at 16. We officially got a transmission from AMG, and that basically that if you want an invite and your event that you wanted at was not 16 players or more, it is probably not valid. Since then, there's like an article on the website that they talk about this. They release an updated article a couple of days later with like basically some questions that were asked that they specifically answered that, are important to everyone. But basically, if you won an event and it wasn't at 16 and you were given an invite, you probably need to email AMG. There is an email address on the site. Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can find it real quick. Here we go. Store Championship Kit Confusion.
That's a good title.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad they released this. Basically, if you want an invite and the store submitted it, make sure the store you wanted at submitted it, reach out to them. And then after that, you need to email OP at Atomic Mass Games and basically tell them who you are and tell them the event you won and, see if they can work with you. Because I know that they have granted at least one exception at this point that I'm aware of personally. So it's probably worth it to reach out. the original invite I won, I'm not sure that store ever reported it because they don't respond to my emails anymore. But well, they didn't respond to like the last email I sent, so I assume they got tired of me.
Probably.
So yeah, I'm hoping everybody gets this resolved well before Adepticon because originally it was like, oh, we'll release like a list of players in February. That's like not too that close. Far. Yeah, too close for there to be ambiguity. Like luckily, Rich, yours was like 18, 20 people. So you know yours is good.
It didn't affect me, but I also felt like something Ken said was pretty true about it. It wasn't the best decision that they made. 16 is a pretty high benchmark for some of these stores to hit, not even including the space that they have to run that kind of thing. And we're here to grow the event. We're here to grow the community. Gatekeeping via 16 as a hard number, it doesn't feel like the best decision that they could have come with. And maybe it should have been like 8 for a store championship, 16 for like a regional event, and then 32 for something like a national like Nova or Gen Con. Where you're giving out multiple invites.
I'm with you. I don't like that it's essentially like gatekeeping from smaller communities that just simply can't get that many people. There's so many communities. Like I'm lucky that the one I ran at Top Deck, we actually hit 32 players. Like we had 32 active players like until like the third round. So both those invites we gave out will be honored, which is excellent. Because they did also say that like if you had 32 players, you can give out 2 invites if you have 2 kits, which is great. The other one I ran at Trotta's in Barnegat, we unfortunately had a bunch of drops day of, and we only had like I believe 12, might have been 14. So that one's in question, and it feels really bad. Like I hope that it's like all resolved. I think going forward, I don't think they should honor them. If the rule is 16, I think at this point, like it needs to be, but maybe go back and like, if like, I don't think like if you won like a 7-player tournament, I do not think, that's warrants a world's invite. I think like more than 10 is probably a better benchmark, but going forward in the future, I don't think that a store championship should be giving out world's invites. I think it needs to go back to the RPQ Prime system we had before COVID with FG, where stores could apply for these, and they chose stores based on like how much foot traffic they got, like how like do they sell a lot of Legion, do they have the space? And I know that that's like a form of gatekeeping, but that worked before, so it can probably work again. The LCQ is also a thing that exists. And like,
I think they held off the decision on this year's Worlds and pushed it to next year's Worlds and said, hey, you know what, we weren't clear enough on the rules this year. We've already passed out invites for things that have less than 8 people, less than 10 people, less than 16. We're just going to say the cutoff is 8. If you've made 8, we'll pass it out. And then next year going forward, we want it to be a 16 for the World invite. But ultimately, I think that it's a community decision as well as their decision. It's up to us to tell them, hey, we don't like it when it's 16. That's too big for a small store in the middle of Maine to be able to get that many players to be able to participate. And those players deserve to participate in this World's qualifying system that we've set up. Because we want this game to thrive, and it's incumbent upon us as a community to make sure that it does.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, I think that it's up to each of us in the community not to tell on ourselves. Don't snitch on stores. That's not cool. It's just like if you're spying in a car, it's only illegal if the cops are there to catch you. AMG does not have the resources or time to devote to checking on every store on every system for every qualifier. And so, don't loose lips sink ships. Don't be a loose lips.
All right. I mean, Mike, you got anything to add?
Yeah, I don't really have anything to echo. I'm glad that we got clarification. That's good. Yeah. It's never a bad thing. I'm very disappointed it came a third of the way, arguably a half of the way into the season. I kind of find it a joke, honestly. I praised AMG earlier for the website making them look much more professional. I think that having to clarify the rules for who is going to be able to play at your final event halfway through your season looks very unprofessional. Hopefully that's a little bit of a wake-up call that they just put a little bit more resources into the OP department. I think it's easily fixable. Grand scheme of things, it's not a big deal. It's just disappointing. But hopefully we just move forward and they keep a sense of consistency. And I think that's all we can ask for. Just make a decision, stick to the decision, and we'll adapt from there.
Yep. That's it. That's our hot take segment on that. But
Rantono.
Yeah, we can't do Rantono without Keegan, unfortunately. So that's it. No, we'll get back to that soon. We'll have you. Yeah. All right. So Nova Open, we all went to Washington D.C. at the Hilton, the Washington Hilton. There were a lot of people who stayed at that hotel had some issues. I had similar issues, but I don't know. I guess I'm just easy to please. I didn't get to. I am. I know. Dude. I mean, buy me a $7 giant slice of pizza, and I'll be happy for a while as I eat my pizza. Anyway, I didn't. Unfortunately, I didn't get to park on site. That would have been $25 a day. I had to find a garage somewhere else that fit the truck that I had to bring the terrain, and it ended up costing me, I think, $243 for the weekend. Yeah, it was a bummer. When you were like, "Oh, it's only going to cost me $100 to park," nope, going to cost you 2.5 times that. Good luck, have fun. Other than that, it was fine. It was a little weird. Most people's rooms in this hotel didn't have refrigerators, which is really odd. Because I bring my own water so that I have a couple bottles of water, and I bring energy drinks, and I ended up, my buddy Anthony, one of my locals, his room did have a refrigerator. He was the only one, one of two people I spoke to that had refrigerators in their room. So he ended up stashing my energy drinks in his room, and he was great for that. So shout out to Anthony. Thank you, buddy. You're the GOAT.
Rich and I just stayed across the street. It was wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, next year maybe I do that, but
better choice. God bless the
hindsight is 2020, boys. I mean, the venue itself was fine.
The space was wonderful. The convention hall itself was a nice upgrade from years past.
It felt a little less cramped than it did at the Hyatt last year, right?
Sometimes the Hyatt feels like a dungeon if it's because you have to go all the way down to the third floor, back to the corner, and it's the third basement floor, so it's just escalator down.
Yeah.
So it was rather nice to just be able to walk in from the street here, and it's hey, here's the convention room. It was a much lighter feeling.
Yep. The great Hob from the Discord, Read the Rules. He ran the event. He was a TO. He did a great job.
Amazing job.
Yep. Yours truly brought about half of the terrain, and then John Brader of Imperial Terrain brought the other half. We were quite happy with the tables we put together. We felt like this was the best overall set of tables that we've ever seen at a Legion event. I think that was echoed quite a bit. So we're quite proud of that.
For sure.
Also, shout out to my buddy Dave Faulkner for judging the whole weekend. He was there. It's really the TO does a lot. The TO always does a lot, or the EO. They've got to make sure all of the moving parts are put together correctly. And it's really hard to do all of that by yourself. And then you get to the event, and then you still have to police and make judge calls and run around in circles, and you can't. It's really hard to do it by yourself with any amount of players. So the fact that he stepped up and drove, spent the weekend, drove out there, spent his money to come and help. Shout out to him. Always thank the extra judge help, because it's it's a thankless job.
Absolutely is.
But yeah. And then John Brader was helping out too, hanging out. He ended up taking over for Hob on Sunday because Hob had an emergency and he had to leave. Big shout out to David Zelenka Endless for streaming the whole weekend. I got to go on. This is the first 2 times I ever played on stream in real life, so that was cool.
That's neat.
That was the first for me. And other than that, I mean, we can jump in and talk about our games a little bit.
So we actually, as a trio, ended up finishing 8th, 9th, and 10th. Do we want to go in reverse order and just kind of work our way up the ladder?
Sounds like a plan. I just want to say off the top, 6 games is an insane amount of Legion. I don't know how you did 8 games, Nick. That's crazy to me.
I'll talk about how I think like I ran out of steam midway through round 5 of that last game, and that's where it was like, I was locked in until then, and then like I just like kind of got a little tunnel vision about it. But I mean, like, it was a lot of fun. I would do it again, definitely, 100% do that.
5 rounds of Swiss between the first 2 days, and then a top cut is what I advocate for the future. I think that gives everybody a chance to get a loss and still progress to the last day without completely blowing all of your steam on day 2 is my feeling on it.
Yep.
So I've been playing a list with Yoda, with Burst, Push, and Barrier, a Clone Commander, 2 Phase 2 Z6s with Medics, an RPS squad with Boyle, 2 Naked Barks, and a single full Echo squad. 8 activations of just pure clone beef, and it was a lot of fun. I've been playing it since the Nick Bodner Memorial tournament, the Golden Sprue. Glad to see you alive, Nick, and well.
Yeah, I'm still alive.
My round 1 was Intercept against Adam Fowler's Anakin Rex, where I got exceptionally lucky and was able to one-shot 2 squads of his full arcs off the board with Barkfire supports on my turn 2 Luminous turns. And that kind of just put the game on my back, and I was able to carry it through. My round 2 was Breakthrough Battle Lines Warrior against Kyle 182, who made the final with his 9-act Blizzard Force and quad bikes. Yoda put the game on his back and just played some real defensive linebacking to keep him from scoring with his bikes and with his troopers. The arcs took just enough time from Vader that the rest of the team was able to slip into the back and get me that win of 4-2 against him. And then round 3, I hit that wall against Kentucky Dan, where it was KP, Major Offensive, and Supply, which all felt pretty good, but my dice went about as cold as they could. And even if they hadn't, his position and patience and just the sheer token generation of the list was hard to battle through, especially without high velocity. He was playing 3 capos, full pikes with the cash dodges and cashed aims, and Bosk and one Black Sun. And for the first time in probably 33 games, I didn't kill anything. I killed exactly 0 units. I killed all of 3 pikes whole game, which felt brutal.
That sounds on brand.
Brutal. It was so brutal. And that was my first loss for day 1. And I thought it would be a rare thing that I didn't kill things. And then day 2, my first round was Anakin 501st with quad arcs. And, we traded volleys back and forth. And eventually he got one through and one-shot my arcs, which completely swung the nature of the game, where I had killed all of just one arc. I generate a lot of tokens with Yoda on his Luminous turn, not nearly as much as Anakin is pulling off with all of his tricks. Anakin Barrier is just so good. And then after that, with very slim hope of making day 3 I still managed to take 2 wins against Rebel players next. My next matchup was an Ahsoka Sabine list by Chris Lawton of Crit to Block. He got a little too aggressive with his Sabine and Ahsoka, and they were both dead by round 2. And then my last matchup was against Ethan King of Crit to Block, was playing Lando, Leia, IG, triple vet, triple MK turrets, double FD. But we were on that infamous Scarif board that Mike will tell you about a little later, where there's just no cover. There was no place to hide for him, and we were playing Intercept. And my dice saved about as hot as they could possibly save. He pulled that Lando's Gunslinger triple cards in his pile fire support off with his MK turrets to deal 2 wounds completely to 1 full squad and 3 wounds to a bark. And then from there it was just kind of cleanup on my part to get rid of them. But great opponents. It was fun getting to play against competition as high level as the 2 of you and Mike Barry and Kyle Dornbos and Kentucky Dan. It was great seeing all of them and getting to put it to the test against them.
Yeah. You got to play against 2 of those Crit to Block guys. I played against Dan as well. Check out crittoblock.com, though. They've got a lot of cool battle reports, and it's also the home of the Carolina Holochronicles, which is like a new blog. Kentucky Dan has some pretty good posts so far. I really enjoyed his Pike Syndicate guide, and they just released a Snowtrooper guide, it looks like. So I'm looking forward to reading that one too. But check those guys out.
So I guess that's on to me. Yeah. So I also got a chance to play all 6 games. I ended up running a Cad Bane triple Magna list. I don't own a lot of B1 expansion packs though, so I went with a Super Tac double E5S single PK. So I got some of the extra command cards in there for the extra dodges, got some aggressive tactics, and just had a little bit of a hardier presence for the retinue with the Magna. And honestly, it went pretty well. Round 1, game 1, I played against David Bailey and his Anakin Barks list. In a theme that you'll notice throughout the event, I played some Vaps, Long March, and Hostile. And we had a pretty boring first 2 turns until I was able to get a couple lucky shots and then dive Cad out there to pop a squad and force him to push me on Vaps. We were in the classic 799 versus 800, and I was a 799. So I was going to have to make something happen on the Vaps there. But I was able to actually win the game at the end by tapping his Vap turn 6 with a Magna Guard. One of the things that a melee charge list lets you do is, score objectives late in the game. So I dove 2 of the squads towards Anakin, the other one towards the Vap, and was able to take a 5-3 victory for a good first close game. Round 2, I played against Kevin Connors, who ended up going 4-2 as well as me. He was playing a double bounty triple dewback list, which is actually pretty difficult to deal with the table that we were on. We were on a desert table with a very, very wide open middle, and his IG and Boba were able to kind of line up some really good shots against my Magna Guard, take advantage of their Pierce, and I didn't have anywhere to hide Cad. But we played Vaps, Major, and Clear, and I had the bigger army this time, so his dewbacks were forced to come towards me. So once I killed the first one on the very first activation of turn 2, he had to essentially Zerg rush Boba and the other dudes towards me, and I was able to kind of pin things down pretty quickly. Target priority is kind of the takeaway that I have from that game. He did throw 2 dewbacks pretty far forward, and I had to make a pretty snap decision on which one do I go for first. I actually ended up shooting the dewback that was a little further away because it had already activated, despite the fact that one was a little closer to that range too for the Magna Guard. But I figured one that didn't have a chance to get away was my better option. That ended up being the correct call in the end. I played against Nick's own Evan Bulris, round 3, in arguably one of the least fun games the 2 of us have ever played, ever. So it sounds really negative, but we played Payload on a table that had 5-inch walls everywhere. Like literally everywhere. So our payloads had exactly 1 route apiece. And the only thing that really mattered that game was who got the better dice rolls, and it ended up going my way. I did make a couple mistakes early on that I got lucky on because I threw my Magna Guard on top of buildings to go chase his Grievous. I got lucky that the Magna saved and then the Staps whiffed on the attack. But we just kind of threw our dice together in the middle, and I ended up taking it on kill points. Cad was able to take a bounty and then stay alive to just ensure that had we finished the game out, my cart was going to get a little bit closer with that bounty point. But I do think my takeaway there is to change the payload rules. If we could just make them hover 1, I don't think anyone would be upset. And we would have gone from having a really poor game to a really fun game. But both of us can agree that was pretty miserable. Round 4, I played against the eventual winner of the tournament, Josh Fluffysaurus, playing his Blizzard Force list. We played some KP, Hemden, and Clear, and I got a little too aggro on turn 3. I decided to try to take advantage of my range 4 advantage and chip down one of his HRUs pretty early just to try to go up 2 acts. Unfortunately, his HRUs had 11 suppression and hadn't yet taken a model off because the medic just brought the only one back that failed. So I put way too much time and effort into trying to kill one squad, and I overestimated how much that set me back. So turn 3, I dove Cad towards his core, thinking that I had to make a play, and Cad went over 8. So I got Cad shot down pretty quickly, and then Vader just did Vader things turn 6 and took the center KP from me. So I ended up losing that one 2-1, or 1-0, one of the two. But that one was a little unfortunate. My takeaway there is to just not let the dice variance not tilt you, but influence your decision making. I should have just waited one more turn, and Cad would have had much more impact for the late game. But I just misinterpreted that. Round 5, I didn't really get to play a game. I got to play Kyle Dornbos, also a 5th trooper, on a Scarif table that Rich mentioned has 0 line of sight blockers. And when I say 0, I mean 0. So I got to play a droid army against a clone gun line with pikes on a table I couldn't hide from. So there was one ship that gave pretty large, heavy cover. So I used my bid to take red player to take that side of the table. Otherwise, I basically would have just stood on a regular table with like maybe a paper plate in front of me. And I was kind of running away round 4, round 5, so I didn't get tabled. I tilted pretty hard at the very start of that game. I tried to get the table moved and then offered to concede before the game even began because I didn't want to waste my time. But we played it out. I gave it a shot. I Zerg rushed my Magna towards him, hoping that maybe I could get in and kill enough stuff that I could score the win on hostage. But that was always going to be a losing effort. It did turn out that way. Kyle rolled pretty poorly on offense and still could have tabled me had he tried. So that was a pretty demoralizing feeling. But I guess my takeaway there is don't tilt even if your game is completely unwinnable. Just play it out, even though it would have been better just to go back and take a nap. Then round 6, I played my favorite game of the day. No offense to any of my other opponents. I played Rich, one of your semi-locals, Adam Obst. He was playing an Iden Callus Boba, and we played a game of VAPS, roll out in clear conditions. And I was able to kind of dive Cad towards the softer part of his list that included some snipers and like Iden herself, who doesn't really stand up that well to Pierce. But I was able to use Cad to take out Inferno Squad and one sniper team and then kind of force Boba and Callus to just charge across an open field towards me. I played on the same table that I did turn 2 or round 2 against Kevin Connors. So it's a table that has a pretty open middle. And this time, because Boba had to charge at me, I was in a much better spot from the get-go. I could kind of just crit him down on the way in. And I think he ended up with like 11 suppression by the time he died. So he took quite a few shots. But Adam and I talked for a little bit after the game, and one of the big things that both of us messed up at the start, but I was able to recover a little bit more quickly on, was keeping our army in a cohesive plan. As both of you are well aware, playing clones and Ewoks and such, when you split your army into 2 and don't have a way to kind of overcome the lack of firepower there, you could very quickly get into trouble where you just don't have the tools necessary to get out. And luckily, I was able to spend the first 2 turns essentially just double moving my entire army back to the spot where it should have been, And because CAD was already charging down the snipers on the far side, I knew that barring disaster, I was going to have him charge me, and I'd be in that better spot. But I ended up going 4-2. Nick and I actually tied on record, tied on strength of schedule, and Nick was farther ahead on kill points.
Fortune favors the bold, my friend.
Well, yes, you were marginally ahead on kill points, and I doubled your victory points scored, which is the 4th tiebreaker. But unfortunately, we didn't get that far.
Better lucky than good, as they say.
I know. I was penalized for playing my objective list instead of my killing list.
One of my favorite things about that whole weekend.
Back here with my world's invite.
My favorite thing about that whole weekend is everybody's finished their games and we're all sitting together and we're all like jostling about who's going to get what position because literally just a few different wins in a few different places, and all 3 of us could have been into the top 8, which is crazy.
Yep. Yeah, and then Evan was right behind you at 11. So
yes,
it's like, yeah, it was tough. Like we were sitting there and like waiting for 3 or 4 games, and like one would get submitted, and it would be like, oh, Nick's ahead of Mike now, and then it would do another one, and it'd be like, oh, well now Mike's in 8th, and it's like, yeah, and it shook out that. And
then the final game went down and let loose one of the loudest son of a bitches I ever have in public.
Yeah. Mike, I'm not playing competitively anymore, Syrylo.
That died day one. Day one, that died.
Yeah, no, it did.
As soon as I won the second round, I was like, crap.
He's back. He's back.
I am not back. Let's just say that.
He's back. It's all right, man. You're just going to fly out to California to get that invite there. Sorry.
I don't particularly care about the invite. I'm not going to be at Worlds no matter what.
All right.
I can't afford it this year.
Yeah, that's a true statement.
$15,000
leverage my large terrain collection into like some cheap Adepticon trip. But all right, well, I played games too. I brought I mentioned I chickened out on Ewoks a while ago, so I brought Cassian, K2, Ahsoka, 2 vets with CMOs, 1 MK, 2 FDs, and 2 strike teams for 10 activations. I feel like it's like the best overall list that Rebels can bring, and it's actually like really good. It's just very glass cannon-y. Everything is very fragile. White saves, they don't have a lot of like the defensive tech that like Cassian has, and defend 1 on vets isn't great because they don't get a lot of orders here. And FDs get like, looked at funny by like long range, and they perish relatively quickly. 6 wounds is great, but they do eventually die. Well, I started off the day. I played against a gentleman named Rob. Rob Curlin. He was playing 11 activation triple stab CAD list with a super tack. I think he had 4 E5 SB1s, 1 naked B1. We were playing on the table we were playing on was relatively open. It's not a ton of line of sight blockers. There are some, but we ended up the flop. He was blue, and the flop really went his way in a big way. I had to cut. I wasn't comfortable playing hostage against CAD, and then I had to cut bombing run. We ended up playing breakthrough, and it was pretty brutal. I think it was advanced positions or major offensive, but so early in the game, I was able to get early round. By the end of round 1, he was down in activation. I got his naked B1. I think I 2-shot it with 2 FDs. I got a little lucky that I pulled 1. It took a shot, and then the next pull, in the middle of the round, was the second FD before he had activated the B1, and I was able to I was like, okay, because breakthrough against triple stabs and CAD, it's I only have 8 possible activations to score, and he has 11, and he has bounty. So it's we were in we really needed to make up ground. A lot of shots from Staps and FDs into each other. The final score ended up being, I ended up scoring 5 or 6 things, and he ended up only being able to score like 2 or 3. He waited a little. He was a little aggressive with his engagement early, and we talked about it later. This was one of like the most fun games I actually played over the whole weekend. He was a lot of fun to play. He played really well, and he's only been playing a little, like about, I think like less than a year, or around a year. He said he's based out of like the Pittsburgh area, but it was a lot of fun. He engaged he was a little too aggressive with his B1s early. And my vets and Cassian and K2 broke incognito like turn 2 because we were playing breakthrough, so we were just walking forward. I ended up using burst of speed to get Ahsoka into CAD just to slow him down pretty early. CAD ended up dying at one point. Cassian, the FDs got like 1 stab, and then the second stab down to like 1 wound, and then that stab ran away from the FDs like out of range. But you can't hide from Cassian, so I actually like recovered him and put him back into sniper because he started in pistol. I put him into sniper just to like, I'm like, well, I need to get that wound off of that stab because otherwise that stab scores, and can't hide from Cassian. So. Got that last wound. That kind of turned it into my favor at that point. But I ended up winning. Don't remember what the final... Well, I can look on Game Uplink at the final score.
Yeah, I can let you know.
4-0. That's... Yeah. That sounds right because I think like we did yeah.
Yep.
But yeah, it was a good game. A lot of fun. Round 2, I played Nick Coleman, who's... from the area, DC, Virginia area. He's come to a lot of my events over the years. He was at PAX a couple years ago, ACO. He even came to like showcase tournament once. But he brought the only triple ATST list there, which I am very familiar with. I've played against it a bunch. This version's a little bit better because it has a bid. So we had to play his deck. We ended up playing breakthrough, rollout, and supply drop on a table that didn't really have anywhere for me to hide stuff behind things from the ATSTs because they were all, it was like one of the Ewok village tables, and it had a lot of trees, but ATST bases are wider than the trees. So like I had to like, I could hide Ahsoka from like one ATST at a time, but like not from every ATST at once. So it was like trying to like run Ahsoka up the board. And I realized he was playing very carefully, and he was playing back for a long time, which I think was correct because like if he walked all those ATSTs into like the FDs and all the vets, like they are going to get burned down quick. So what ended up happening is like Ahsoka eventually just made a play for the middle toward like 2 of his stormtrooper squads and 2 of his scout squads like that were near the middle. She ended up like killing one and then force pushing another so that like it was going to be harder for them to score. The end was very close. It was 1-1 breakthrough, and I won on kill points because I only lost, I think, like I ended up losing like K2 and a vet or something like that. That was it. And then he lost an ATST in like 3 or 4 of his trooper activations. But basically at the start of turn 6, he was very clearly going to score 1 ATST. The other ATST was on 1 wound, but it would, if I didn't shoot it, it would score, but I had Cassian, so it was going to die. He had a stormtrooper that had 1 mini left, and it was basically able to hide behind a piece of terrain and the ATST that was in the breakthrough zone, and it was just in. I pulled one of my vets, and the vet was able to walk around, shoot the stormtrooper, and kill it. But if I don't pull that vet there, I think he wins because that vet was in range of his other ATST, or even the naked stormtrooper that would have been able to just like shoot and put suppression on it and probably stop it from getting 2 actions. We talked about it that if I don't kill that stormtrooper, he probably win. Because I wouldn't have been able to get around to stop it and kill it. So it was a very close game, very good game. but I ended up winning. Round 3, so last game of the day. Last game of the day on Friday, I played against Paul Jones, and this was a stream game, so you can probably check it out on David's Endless's YouTube. This was against, he was playing Dooku, CAD, a Magna, and a bunch of B1s. They all had the B1, the only B1 heavies he had were the rockets, so he was loaded for impact. He had, I believe, 9 activations. We ended up playing payload, and this was a game where I was basically like, from the beginning, I was like, okay, if I'm going to win, I probably need to table him, because I don't think I'm going to be able to push my payload into range 1 or to touch. So like the best case is I score 1 point. So I need to just kill everything and or stop his payload, which was going to be tough. So that's what I went out to do. He was aggressive with Dooku turn 1, so I was able to get like wounds on it from the FDs and Cassian. The Magnas did a lot of protecting Dooku, so I was able to, Dooku would take a wound, and then the Magna would take a wound from Protector, so it was like a good trade. Dooku ended up, he had Medroids, and we played supply drop, and he got like an extra back to somewhere, so like Dooku, lived a while, but he did eventually die. Ahsoka crashed in, like he pushed CAD and Dooku toward my cart, stopped my cart like from moving turn 2, and then I crashed Ahsoka in as quickly as I could just to try and thin things out. His Dooku was suppressed when he played his 1-pip round 3, because he played his 2-pip to, lightning move. He wasn't able to get the squad engaged with him after the force push. The suppressive generators on my FDs helped keep Dooku to like 1 action turn 3. So basically he was kind of forced to like, instead of like moving, attacking something with like Ahsoka or something with Dooku and then moving back, he just had to move back. So I did eventually I did kill Dooku. And then like turn 5, I stopped his cart from moving with, I moved up both my strike teams, Cassian and K2. And I think like the end result was we played into round 6, and it was very clear at that point that like I was actually going to be able to push my cart into range 2 of mine, and he was not going to be able to move his cart anymore, because like at the start of 6 he only had like 2 activations left, or 3, and Ahsoka killed 1 at the start, and then it was like I had Cassie and K2, a strike team, and Ahsoka on his payload, and he had like 5 B1 models left. And I was just like, it was very clear I was going to win, and I was like, I was like, do you want to keep going? And he was like, yeah. He's like, table me. And I was like, okay. And then like I was like, I think I got all but 1 B1 model off the table.
So that's where those 200 kill points came from.
Oh yeah, I got 721 kill points.
God damn it.
He had, I think like the B1 that had like a scanner and an EV or something like that was alive. I don't remember, but it was a good game. I went into it with a plan from the beginning. I'm like, all right, well, you just got to kill everything. The FDs were able to see over basically all of the terrain in the center, so they weren't going to like not get shots very often. Same with the MK got a lot of good shots too, which is always like, it's always really good when your MK is shooting. It's fragile, but like crit 2 is really good. So going into day 2, 3-0, feeling pretty good. I know that I need to win probably 2 more games, at least 1. So my first game of the day is against Kentucky Dan, who Rich played the day before. He looked at my battle deck. He had a bid, and he looked at my battle deck and decided he was going to give the table side. There was one table side that was definitely a little bit better, and he saw that, and he saw the battle deck, and he's like, okay, I'm going to give you blue. And so we go into turn 0, and he didn't ban Vaps. And I was like, okay. I was like, well, that's good for me, because unless I'm missing something, I don't have to do anything here because I was able to place we played advanced positions. So I was able to place my VAPs like in really good places and then also hit them turn 1. So that turn 2, I could hit them and run with my vets. And he realized as we're placing things, he's like, I messed up. He's like, I forgot that you're going to win a tie because I have his bid was like 797, I think. And mine was 799. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, oh shit. He's like, I think I already lost. And I'm like, I cheekily, I was like, would you like to concede now? Of course he didn't. And I'm glad he didn't. Well, I mean, it was like, you know, I knew he wasn't going to do it. He's a great player. He's got a reputation for high level play. So I assumed he was going to try and make this a game, and he sure did. So I'm like, oh, advanced positions, I can scout my FDs. So I put an FD where it was exactly range 5 from his VAP. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get to poke his VAP. But what I like didn't think about was that like, oh, those pikes are going to kill that FD. And then they're going to run away. Which is like basically he put everything like he started everything like outside range 5 of the FD. And he creeped in like 4 or 5 activations, including Bosk, and shot the FD and killed it. FD was gone turn 2. I had gotten shots on pikes, and I think I had 2 squads down to 2 models. But I was like, I'm never going to see them again. Because like they were, you know, he was able to hide them from Cassian. Makes sense. There was like no way. And if I like stuck something else out to try and get it, I have white saves and I don't have dodge spam. So I'm just going to like die. I placed Ahsoka in such a point though, where she could engage either side of his, either corner of his board. And he had a black sun. And like I said, advanced position. So on the bottom of his table, he scouted his black suns up. And he didn't move them very quickly away. And I think he forgot that so Ahsoka at the end of turn 4, she double moved with burst of speed and force pushed the Black Sun into her into a spot where he didn't have a lot of units that were able to react to it. And it was after the Black Sun activated, and he was basically like, well, if I just if I disengage, like she's just going to kill them next round. So he stayed in and he punched Ahsoka, did a wound. And you know, he very smart. He took a dodge first, and then he had vigilance, so he kept the dodge with vigilance. So next round, when Ahsoka attacks them, he put another dodge on them with discretion, I think, and so they had a couple dodges, and Ahsoka, you know, swatted them, did like 2 or 3 wounds. They stayed engaged. He tried to position so that way, like when Ahsoka killed them turn 6, that like things would be able to shoot. But I waited as long as I could, and I stripped a Bosk standby because Bosk never took damage, so no enrage. And then like a pike that had moved and standbyed where they could see Ahsoka also, like managed to like get a lucky. A sniper shot into them that was like, you know, 1 paint. So stripped a standby. Cassian strip another standby. So, and then turn 6, like I killed the Black Sun and I won by like 20 kill points or something like that. The difference between an FD and a Black Sun. He made it a game. I hate playing the like VAPs. It's like, I like playing VAPs. It's fun. But I'm always thinking of old VAPs, and it's like new VAPs. It's like, Nick, don't put anything where he can ever shoot it because you will just win. And like, I don't know, that's just like not my play style. So I like to play the game. So we made it a game. It was a lot of fun. He's a great player. I fear playing him under more normal circumstances where he doesn't make that turn 0 mistake because he's a great player. And
I would venture to say that list is the breakout list of Nova.
It's really good.
It's like that triple FD list that was just came out of nowhere. This came out of nowhere, and it's such a strong list.
Yep. All right, so now I'm 4-0, feeling pretty good. Still need to win probably one more. I go into round 5 and I get Josh, Fluffy Saurus. Mike had just lost to him. Mike was like, "Oh, I'm rooting for Josh because of my strength of schedule." So that broke my heart a little bit, but it didn't help me play any better, to be clear. This is Blizzard Force. It was kind of a blur. I was really exhausted at this point because like mine and Dan's game lasted like an hour because literally after turn 2, like between turn 2 and like turn 6, only 2 activations actually mattered. So like, I just kept running things away. So we finished in like an hour and then there was a lunch break. So it's like I was about 2 hours from when I played. I was tired and I was exhausted from the day before. So it's like that definitely went into like I went into this game and I didn't feel great and I played like shit and Josh played really well and he crushed me. And I felt really bad afterwards because I was like a salty baby a little bit. I apologized to him afterwards. It was great. He outplayed me from the beginning. We played KP and I really didn't have anywhere to hide from the bikes. And we played Disarray and I put both my FDs in one zone and like his bikes went and hunted them and killed them. And then like I didn't trade well at all because he has Medroids in this list, 2 of them. So like the wounds from Crackshot into Vader and the HRU I took shots at with Cassian, he just Medroided them back. And that felt bad. I had like one last ditch play. There was like a building and I was hiding most of my army behind it. And Vader was on the other side of the building. So, you know, like turn 3, I jumped Ahsoka, pushed him out into some standbys, and he took like a grand total of like no damage from this. From like, I think it was like Cassian, or it was like K2 and MK and like something else. And then Ahsoka, her second action, she, you know, charged in and attacked him and he took like 1 damage or something. And I was just like, yeah, that's it. Cause like, Vader was just gonna, you know, Vader's Might something because he had played Vader's Might, but he hadn't activated Vader yet. And it was like, Vader's just gonna like yeet this MK on top of this building and then he's gonna like kill Cassian or K2 and I'm not gonna have an answer. So I conceded there and apologized for being a baby. Sometimes you just gotta like swallow your pride and not be a jerk about things. But so, all right, I'm going into round 6. I'm like, all right, we can win one more. But I got Kyle 182. Kyle Crosser is his actual name. He's actually semi-local to me now. He was also playing Blizzard Force, but he was playing the version with Ion Snows. Josh's version had one of the standard DLT RT HRUs, and then he had a T21 HH12. Kyle had both of the standard RT DLT HRUs, and he had 2 Snows with ion guns. I mean, for like, the ion guns are okay because it gives you a shot, and you can just recover, move, shoot a lot. So, but we played Disarray again, and we played KP again. This was like a theme, I did Cassian, like every time Cassian shot at something and he would get like 2 crits, he would roll 2 blocks. So like I was not trading. Like Cassian wasn't getting enough wound. Similar thing happened. We ended up playing almost the whole game though. And I like near the end of the game, I dove Ahsoka at Vader and it didn't amount to much. So he ended up winning. So I think it was like 2-0 was the score because he was gonna be able to get my back and contest my like safe KP and he was gonna get the center. So we're all waiting for the last few matches to finish up, like we said, and last match finishes up and I sure enough I sneak into top 8. I'm pretty excited. After the AMG basically canceling everybody's invites, I wanted to like win a real one pretty bad. So we go into top 8, right? And top 8 is both Blizzard Force players I played, Kyle Dornbos, Mike Berry, Sam McHenry, Kentucky Dan, JoJo Binks, myself, right? And I'm like, all right, well, hopefully I don't get a Blizzard first round because, like, I've had enough of Blizzard for the rest of my life, but definitely for this event. But sure enough, I not only got Blizzard Force again, I got Kyle, who I had just played the last round, and we played on the exact same table.
Talk about a fever dream.
Dude, I asked if we could switch to a different table, and he was like, that's how it goes. And I was like, okay. This game, I immediately was like, I'm taking the other side of the table that I didn't take last time, just to see if, like, we can shake it up a bit. And I started out pretty aggressive. We played Disarray again. But we started out pretty aggressive, and the dice kind of like went my way, and we played hostage this time because I was like, I'm not playing KP again. So let's see if we can win hostage. And I managed to kill Vader turn 3 with just like a lot of shots turn 2, and then Ahsoka, I won the 1 pip roll off, and Ahsoka got 8 into Vader, and he had 2 wounds left from getting shot a whole bunch the round before. Because, he does the Vader's Might with the hostage, but he was out when he activated with Vader. He was outside of range 1 of the MK I had selected. So he had to move once before he could yeet the hostage. And he basically didn't, he killed the hostage. He moved, pulled the hostage in with Vader's Might, and then he took a standby. And once I pulled a core, I activated the MK, and I pulled a core pretty quickly. I activated the MK, and I dodged, and I stand by just in case. And then Ahsoka came in. Before Ahsoka could force push, he killed the hostage. Then Ahsoka force pushed, or Ahsoka moved in, attacked. I think I did 2 damage. I force pushed him out so that I could shoot at him with I saw 5 things to activate. And I shot at him with 5 things. Ahsoka took a damage from a speeder bike. During this round, I think I killed a speeder bike round 1, and then another half a speeder bike round 2, and a snow HRU. K2 pulled his incognito turn 1. We ripped I played very aggressively. Vader died turn 3, and then he basically conceded because he had. Later on in the round, I think he only had his hostage was safe with an HRU, because I killed the snow earlier in round 2 from an FD, and basically at the end, near the end of turn 3, he had a full speeder bike and a snow trooper left, and that was it. And the HRU, and I still had, I think I lost 1 vet squad or 1 strike team. It was a strike team because I had a vet squad that got shot down to 1 guy, and then he rallied and he ran around the building to hide. He conceded at that point. I was definitely feeling really good because I lost twice to Blizzard, and I was able to get that win. And I also secured my top 4 invite. So that was great. Waited around a little while for the last round, for round 2 to start. Let's not spoil anything. So round 2, I got Josh again, Blizzard Force. 4 Blizzard Forces in a row. I was punished. This game was streamed as well, and I feel like I played really well until I started to get a little tired near the end. But if you want to check it out,
I got to see this one on stream, and I got to see in real time you pull that Ahsoka token. And I could almost see in my head what you were thinking, I need this Inspire to be able to move that vet to get it there.
There was a lot, yeah.
It was just, you needed 3 things at once, and you just couldn't have all 3. It sucked.
Yep. So this one was KP. I felt pretty good about it with the table side I had, but I played a lot better in this game than I did in my round 5 against Josh the previous day. he was trying to avoid FDs as much as he could with speeder bikes. I was able to get one speeder bike down to one wound before it, like from Cassian crack shot and maybe 2 FD shots. It got down to 1 wound, and it wasn't quite able to hide from Cassian. So Cassian took a wound from the orbital bombardment card that Blizzard Force has. He took a wound round 1 from that. So I played Last Stand turn 2 just so that I could like hopefully just like it's like, you know, understand that like, you know, I'm not getting a lot of value out of this, but if I win priority, I have an aim token on Cassian and I have a shot on that bike with 1 wound. So it's basically like a guaranteed wound. So that is exactly what I did. So I activated Cassian. I shot the speeder bike. The speeder bike died. Great. So now we're up 2 activations, and now he's positioning his bikes to hide from my FDs until he can just swarm them in and kill the FD, and then go back around to play KP at the end of the game, which is what I knew. I started moving my vets up, my MK up, Cassian, K2, and Ahsoka up toward the middle. So they're about range 1.5 to range 2 from the KP going into like round 5 and 6. I start getting some shots on things. Cassian was plinking at Vader basically like every round. I wore out his med charges pretty quickly between that and some like shots into HRUs. I probably should have like thought about target priority a little bit more, because like Cassian could have shot at bikes too a few times instead, and I didn't. I just shot at Vader, and like if I had gotten like another wound or 2 in like an HRU or a bike, it's probably a different game going into 6. But going into turn 5, he played Vader's Might just to scare me off the center, which was, you know, a thing that he did, like from getting a little too close to it. But turn 6, I played Ahsoka's 3-pip. Because I had started taking attrition onto vets and things were starting to get suppressed. I needed the Inspire 2. The Inspire 2 was good. Getting some orders out is good. Like I didn't need Ahsoka's flashy 1-pip. Like I didn't think like, you know, she should be able to kill something that goes near the center when she activates, but I didn't need, I wasn't going to kill Vader. Vader was at like 7 wounds to 7 health still. It wasn't going to happen. So I pushed, I waited. I needed, like Rich said, I needed like 3 things to go my way. But what I didn't realize is if I'd probably just waited Ahsoka out, I would have like gone last, and I probably still could have won just because I had force push, and you know, Vader doesn't take the burst of, you don't take the immobilize until at the end of the round. Off burst of speed. So it's like I probably should have just activated Ahsoka last and assumed he wasn't going to have like 8 things on the KP. But he pushed his bikes into my safe KP. And then I had like an FD shot and an MK shot, and they just whiffed, which felt pretty bad. So I was like, all right, well, we're not killing this speeder bike, so I've got to run this vet back so that I can capture my KP. And so I activated Ahsoka before Vader. Vader, I did burst of speed Ahsoka. I burst of speed, moved into a speeder bike that had like 3 wounds near the center, killed it, pushed Vader a little further away, and then I just burst of speeded back to the KP. But he ended up winning. We tied 1-1. Nobody captured the center, and I lost on kill points, 242 to 210. I killed 3 bikes. He killed a vet, an FD, and something else. But yeah, it was a really good game. I'm happy with how I played up until the end there. Josh is a great opponent. He's real good. You all should be scared of him. He ended up winning the whole event, so I can't really be mad. He ended up beating Sam in the final. So he is the current Nova Open champion. Congrats to him, and great games to everybody. But yeah, that's the Nova Open.
One hell of a tournament
going forward.
Yeah, I had a great time. Looking forward to next year.
I was really surprised at the amount of armor, and I know Nova has traditionally been very light on armor. That whole meta down in the DC area is pretty light on armor. But it felt like there was a lot of preparedness for some kind of armor presence, and there was not a lot of armor.
Yeah, there were a few double air speeders. There was the single triple ATSD, and that might have been the only ATSDs like there. Yeah, there just wasn't a lot. I think that like everybody kind of knows at this point that like everybody's bringing things that can like kill armor. So if you have white save armor, like you're probably you're not gonna like you're gonna have a tough time. I think there was one Dark Trooper list.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the point cost nerfs on the Dark Troopers wasn't enough to lower them better. Is that what we're all thinking?
In my opinion, it's the protector change. I think the points still fit, but the fact that they are always going to be the ones rolling now makes it far scarier.
Yep.
It's not so bad when you know that half of I shouldn't say half, when you know that at least 4 hits per turn are not going to be rolled on them. It's a lot scarier, and that goes into your now more expensive unit. I think that's the killer. And the fact that they went up and Boba went up means that it took away every aspect of what made that list a 12 out of 10. And I think it's still very strong, but it's definitely not 12 out of 10 anymore.
Yeah. Yep.
Do we feel like additional changes need to come to Blizzard?
I
don't know. I think that both
I'm
players...
Go ahead,
Mike. No, you go.
I'm a little biased because I play a lot of CIS, and traditionally I'm very weak into it. I'm not necessarily sure if changes need to come to Blizzard, but I do think bikes in general should go up a little bit.
Yeah,
they're very strong in Tempest. They're very strong in Blizzard. I'm sure they'll be very strong in the next Battle Force that comes for Empire. I mean, I say that just this is AMG's track record of strong bike Battle Forces. So I think it's probably time to just take a look and see maybe they just go up 3 points. Like the stat change from 2 years ago when they went up 3 points actually had a little bit of impact when combined with the other things. I think just a bike going up 3 points now adds 12 points to Blizzard, adds 12 points or 9 points to Tempest. Yeah. Just a very, very small adjustment.
Yep.
Nothing major.
Yeah. And I do think that Anakin was everywhere at Nova, and I think he's going to be everywhere for a while.
I think that's okay, though.
I think him going up five points is probably okay, too. He's a little too cheap what he brings.
I would rather see the other things around him go down, to be honest. Like, I would rather see, like, what was that?
Do you mean up?
No, I mean, like, the other characters that you could take instead that you're not because it's Anakin. Like, I'd rather see them come down because, like, Gar's gotten hit by point changes so many times, and it took them a long time to, like, climb out into relevance, so to speak. Like, there's always been lists where, like, or players that can bring, like, that could bring a Gar list and still do really well when they were struggling. But now it's like we are seeing that, like, you know, like they are actually very, very good now, and it's reflected by the data we see in the tournaments. But I'd rather not see – I don't want to see them nerfed again. I'd rather see, like, bring Obi-Wan down to a similar cost as Anakin so that there's actually a choice you can make, and maybe people will find something that works. I don't know.
So I think that's super valid. My only potential disagreement is that Anakin is uniquely strong against everything that is good in Legion.
Yep.
So they should take a look at that. Does that mean he goes up? Maybe not. Does that mean that something gets changed on what else is good? Maybe. But if he is going to be consistently good against every archetype to come out, that's a problem. Just from game design. Not a huge problem, but it's an issue to look at.
It's kind of, for me, it's kind of like Vader. I kind of always want to see Anakin and Vader on the boards. Just like I kind of want to see Luke Skywalker on the board. And so whatever you do needs to take that into consideration to make sure that they have a place in the meta. It doesn't get destroyed by whatever changes you make. But maybe you shouldn't be seeing 8 out of 10 lists be Anakin lists in Gar.
And I think if you add a third core option to Gar, you can get some other combinations so that it doesn't have to be 8 versions of Anakin.
Yep.
But
better opinion, Mike. I like it.
All right. Well, that's our show. We've been here a while. I figured we would be. So, Mike, Rich, thank you for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Nick.
Yeah, man.
always a pleasure to be on.
Yeah. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. We'll probably have a lot of post Ministravaganza stuff to talk about. I think Keegan's going to drop some music in at some point here. But see y'all later.